is Musa Amir, 003, like the cart. Hello everybody, my name is Musa Amir and welcome to the stunning Whistling Moran circuit. As you can tell, I'm going to be getting in the car, but what you don't know is who my opponent is. He's a 5-time Kenya motocross champion, 3-time Eastern Central Africa champion. He's won in all the categories, 50cc, 65cc, 85, 125ccs. He's currently racing in enduro racing. His name is none other than Tutu Maina. Hey Tutu, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, obviously, we're here at the Whistling Moran circuit. You can race bikes here, but today that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah. We're going to get you out of your comfort zone. If we were on bikes, we wouldn't stand a chance. So we're getting into the kart. Yeah. How do you fancy your chances?
I'm really competitive, so regardless of how good I am, I'm not going down without a fight. So.
Okay, I like that. You know what it is? That's the thing, man. He didn't win in Eastern Central Africa in Kenya without that competitive nature. So. Well, it may have taken Tutu a long time to get dressed, but it certainly didn't take him a long time to get to grips with the track. Hello everybody and welcome along to the stunning Whistling Moran circuit, where 1.4 kilometers of pure racing asphalt undulates up and down these stunning Athi River hills. This 12-turn circuit contains 8 right-handers and 4 left-hand corners with speeds of up to 50 kph along the long straights. And here's how your grid lines up after reverse grid qualifying. The back markers Kasim Abdi and Maktal Hamzi occupy the front row. The star of qualifying Tutu Maina starts in third, with host Musa Amir occupying the final slot. And as they line up here, we wait for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lights out, and away we go. Great start by Kasim, pulling away well. Tutu gets a great start as well, heading into turns 1 and 2. Tutu clears Maktal, who drops behind Musa. Tutu flying through turn 3, going up the straight. Oh, and what's this? Maktal whizzes past Musa as Tutu Maina leads from Kasim from Maktal. And oh no, there's contact between the two back markers as we get team radio from Musa here.
Losing power, it's going. Keep going now. I can't, it's broken.
And as he gets back on track, Tutu leads from Maktal, who overtook Kasim after a spin, and Musa in plumb last after the engine problems. Tutu Maina overlap the host Musa Amir. He's getting in the slipstream, he's gaining and goes down the inside of Musa, and Tutu Maina is going to win this race emphatically, and there is nothing anybody can do about it. After 10 laps of amazing racing, Tutu Maina wins right here at the Whistling Moran circuit. Well, there was no stopping him. Tutu Maina takes victory with Maktal and Kasim occupying the podium spots, and Musa after several engine problems at the back of that bunch. Tutu, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a performance on the track.
I miss being in the cart.
You miss being in the cart?
I really miss being in them. I feel like I'll be here very many weekends to come.
It's quite the experience.
It's so much fun.
I remember we started off like this, obviously me from last position, because we did reverse grid qualifying. Yeah, so you had a stellar performance. But take away from the carts, we've had a great time there. We want to go back to your beginnings in motocross.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd imagine it was one of the first sports you ever did. I think even most of us started with football, but perhaps you can tell us how you got onto the bike.
So with motocross, when I was younger, I was like 3 or 4 years old. My dad used to take me out to watch rallies a lot. He was very good friends with Patrick Giroux, John Gunjiri, who else was he friends with? Jeremy Wahome. And because he was friends with them, they'd allow me to go into their cars when I was a kid. And I was one of the only kids, or if the only child at that point, 3 or 4 years old, I was never scared of the sound. In fact, I loved the sound of the cars. I loved how loud they were, and I didn't want to get away from the steering wheel. And maybe they jumped to conclusions and they were like, maybe he'll love cars eventually, but the best way to go through that, getting to that is either karting or motocross. And so my dad decided, and this is so funny because literally, just as I was about to start motocross, or just before I started motocross, my dad got me these like play toy golf clubs, because a part of my family wanted me to play golf.
Wow! So
and I'm so happy to have been a different trajectory completely than what I'm doing today. And I think I'd be a completely different person. It basically was just a pick and choose between karting and motocross, and I decided to go in motocross, or at least my father decided to go in motocross for me. And even that, picking motocross over karting, I think for me personally, I think it was the best decision because I've been able to do so much with it. So yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but my grandma invested in my first motorbike. So she technically started me off on this this path to success with motocross.
That's great. And
It's amazing,
so
yeah.
you got in quite a young age, and I suppose success was just something that either came evidently or came quickly, like because from the outside looking in, it was Tutu Maina, motocross champion.
I think sometimes people tend to say that it's sort of in my blood. Like I was born to ride or something like that. I just think that I was inspired by so many people who are already in the sport. And
Local guys or international?
Local guys. So, like I'll give an example, like a guy called Daniel Muturi, who was literally one of the best riders at the time. And then Anthony Nilsson, who was also a veteran champion. So I was completely taken by them. I was completely taken by their racecraft. I was completely taken by their charisma on the track, and that just sort of pushed me to become a lot better.
So it wasn't success that came easy. It was something
No.
that you worked
Of course, I had to train, and it took me a lot of time to get to the point of being a champion. I think I was really lucky that I picked it up fast enough that in my second season I had my first championship win. So that was back in 2002. I started riding in 2000, halfway through 2000, and then I started my first championship in 2001. That's when I first started my first racing
like
season.
6-7 years old.
I was 6 years old, yeah.
Wow.
6 years old. Yeah, standard 1, class 1.
And throughout balancing school and your passion for sports, what was that like?
I think that was the hardest thing. Finding ways to balance school and motocross was painful because I had to work extra hard to just get the results that other people are getting without having to spend too much time away from the books. Because like during the week, maybe I'd say 3 or 4 times a week, I'd spend evenings after class at the track. And then I'd have to go home and do homework, and then I'd have to still spend time studying. So I'd maybe sleep at, let's say, 9 or 10, maybe sometimes 11, just to make sure that I had done my homework before I went to school the next day. Yeah, so it was really, and I went through primary school and high school. University toned down a little bit because that's when I started doing a lot of enduro riding, so that I didn't need to practice that much. I could work out and then be fine.
Okay, and looking back at all your championships, is there one specific one that you love more than the other, one that sticks out to you?
Definitely. I think my 2007 85cc championship sticks out for me because I think I had the most fun in that class, and I think I was really on top of my game at that point. Not to say I wasn't on top of my game in later years. It's just that at that point in time, I think it was just when I just started to reach my peak. And I was taking everything that I learned into account when I was on the track, and also it was also a really sweet championship win because I was racing against my cousin Cruz Migai, who was by far one of the most talented riders at that point in time.
So that little blood rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, people said it was a blood rivalry, but we were very good friends on and off the track. I think there was only one time when I was really angry at how he was on the track, but he was just being a really good racer,
What are some of the challenges that our motocross athletes will go through?
In general, or just motocross when you're already in it?
I think both in general.
Okay, so I'll start specifically with motocross.
Specifically.
Yeah. So specifically with motocross, you have to be ready to fall enough times to get better, and you have to be ready at any point in time to have a bad enough fall that either wrecks you completely, like you break an arm, you break a leg, you damage some soft tissue here and there, maybe you tear a ligament. You have to be ready for all the injuries, basically, and you have to be ready to go through the blood, sweat and tears, because motocross in itself is such a competitive sport, both regionally and throughout the whole of Africa, and of course internationally as well, that if you really want to take it all the way, you really have to have that mindset of, number one, I'm going to train harder than all my opponents, and number two, I'm not racing against them. I'm racing against myself. So in motorsport in general, I feel like it's a very, we can have debates about it like all day, over what the government should be doing for the sport, or what the different clubs should be doing to promote the sport. But I feel like it just comes down to this: motocross is a very expensive sport, but it's only because it's been made expensive. So bringing in a bike from abroad is like, the taxes to bring in a bike is insanely. It's huge. It's huge. So before you even start riding, that's already a big thing. Before you start importing kit, even for retailers here, it becomes very expensive. So that to start in general is very expensive, and to maintain it, of course, repairs, track maintenance.
Yeah.
I feel like oil, spare
Physical
parts,
repairs for your body,
of course,
going to the
like physio.
hospital.
It takes a toll.
What are some of the mental challenges that you face? Like, for example, coming back from injuries, the will to get back, something like that.
I was lucky that I didn't have to go through any post-traumatic experiences when I'd injured myself, and that's saying something because I've broken almost all my limbs. Actually, I've broken all my limbs. I've broken my hands, both my hands. I've broken both my legs. I've dislocated my neck. I've damaged all the soft tissue on my left side, and every single time that I've come back into the sport, I've come back, I think, a lot stronger. I've never felt the need to stop. I've never felt scared. I've never felt like there was something holding me back. Not at all.
There needs to be that fearlessness in most motorsport drivers. Rally, karting.
I wouldn't even call it fearlessness. I just call it like acuity. Like it's mental acuity to know that these things happen, and once they happen one time, they can happen again and again and again.
Of course, right now in the entire world of sports, the Black Lives Matter movement is streaming all over the world, and particularly in motorsport, Lewis Hamilton has come under a lot of stick for his very strong stances. You are a young Kenyan in a country of black people, but I believe your experience in coming up in motorsport was quite similar to his, despite being in an African country.
When I started motocross, it was primarily a white sport. I think I was only one of about 4 or 5 other black kids I was riding.
Your man was your cousin?
Yeah, no, he hadn't even started riding then. So even then, my cousin started riding a lot later than I did. And I can't remember the correct year, but when I first started in 2001, there was a handful of black riders. And I felt like, because I was coming in very young and they were a bit older than I was, I felt
even from the endurance videos you just showed us.
Yeah. Enduro is still primarily just white people.
Yeah. So what do you think can be done to get a lot more inclusion? Because I think for here in Kenya, the perception of that motorsport is a rich person sport, just like you mentioned, is what discourages a lot of people.
Yeah. I think.
But what about worldwide?
I think there can be parallels, John. I'm not saying that my dad worked like Lewis Hamilton's dad, having 4 jobs, but my dad worked his ass off to get me into the sport and to get me to maintain the fact that I was in the sport, or rather to maintain my place in the sport. He worked super hard, and I'll be forever grateful to my father for doing what he did, just to help me. I can remember the times when, like in 2003, when we went out and we wrote letters to family members and friends and different companies to give sponsorship to me to go out and represent the country in Namibia. And it was my first experience abroad as a part of the national team to go and represent Kenya. We've had a rough time, or rather I've had a rough time, getting into the sport, and not to put down anyone for the privilege they were born into, but I was one of the only kids who came into the sport, and I was in a Kenyan private school, but not in a British system school. So it was already a different language. Talking to other kids, first of all, was completely different for me because they were talking about trips to Switzerland to ski.
It's not the same.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So I already had to fight from a different kind of level of adversity where I felt like this sport wasn't mine. Like I didn't deserve to be in the sport because I wasn't as wealthy or as rich as some of these people. So in my head, I was like, so I have to prove myself. I have to prove myself. I have to prove myself by succeeding more than they could. So it's not like it's not like the money zone that's giving you the wins. It's the racecraft and the time you put in and the effort that you put in. So. Yeah.
That's lovely to hear too.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, you're a champion on the bike,
Oh, yeah.
and I can't deny you're the champion in the car too. So
I mean, just imagine if I started with carts also.
who knows, man? Thank you so much for having us here, for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of
I
course,
really
guys.
appreciate
Tutu Maina, the one and only. You've seen his brilliance in the carts, in the bikes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, guys, subscribe and have a nice.